Hello, beautiful soul. Welcome to the Elevate Your Soul podcast. I wanted to start off today's episode by reading a beautiful review from Chris. Empowering podcast. There is so much I could say about Arel and her amazing podcast that I don't even know where to begin. Her free spirit and the wonderful information she shares, as well as the amazing guests she interviews, are nothing short of some of the most empowering, inspiring, and uplifting blocks out of my day when I listen to them. I'm grateful to have found her and look forward to continuing to follow her as she works her magic by simply being the beautiful, bright, shining, and compassionate soul she is. Thank you, Arel. Wow, thank you so much, Chris. It really means a lot to me if you guys could write me a review or leave me a 5-star rating. It really helps get this podcast out there and helps people find this information. Today, I'm interviewing Alba Barrett, a life coach who works with women specifically to help them activate their unique magnetism in order to attract and call in their soulmate. So today's topic is how to call in your soulmate. Today, Alba and I discuss what is a soulmate, can a person have more than one soulmate in their lifetime, and how to call in and manifest your soulmate and call in these deep soul connections. If you want to get in touch with Alba or find her work, her website, Facebook, and Instagram are in the show notes. I hope you guys can gain something and learn something from this, and I hope you enjoy the episode. Hello, Alba. Welcome to the Elevate Your Soul podcast.
Thank you, Arel. Thanks for having me.
Good morning. Time zones, very different time zones right now happening.
Absolutely. I think we're opposite sides of the planet.
Totally. First question I have for you is, what elevates your soul?
What elevates my soul? Well, I suppose what elevates my soul, I have specific practices that I do on a daily basis because I do believe that there are very specific energetic practices. I wouldn't specifically call them spiritual practices, although they are. And these are the types of things that elevate your soul. And I think that sometimes people think it's something that you just do once in a while, but I think it's very important for your energy that you do this stuff consistently and you do it on a daily basis.
Yeah.
It really balances you. So for me, it's dance. I love singing as well. I have my setup here, like microphone, everything. I record my little tracks and, not the next Beyonce or anything, but it's just purely for my own enjoyment.
I love it.
And, I love to write as well. So I would say those 3 practices are my main things to keep my energy balanced.
Self-expression, so important.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful.
Music. I mean, anything related to music is just huge for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it moves you. Totally moves you. Can you explain for us in your definition what a soulmate actually is?
So in terms of, I know lots of people have lots of different definitions out there. People get very attached to certain titles or definitions. Is it a soulmate? Is it a twin flame? How will we figure out who can we pay to tell us, is this a twin flame, a soulmate, or whatever? Yeah. And I have to buy into any of that drama because, to be honest, I don't think it matters. Like, why does it matter what the definition is of your connection? What matters is how it feels to you. Soulmate, some people might have specific ideas about what that is. My definition of a soulmate, you could have many, but it is about that very deep connection that's on all levels. It's not just a sexual connection. It's not just an intellectual connection. It's on your soul level. And that's where, that sense where you feel like you could go to all levels with this person, like exponential. That's the way I would describe it, is when you feel like this relationship could go anywhere.
Yeah, could conquer the world together in a good way.
Yeah, because so many relationships, and you know, they could be great, but I find that a lot of the women that I work with, their experience of relationships involves them having to limit themselves or alter themselves in some way in order for the relationship to work.
Yeah.
And my experience of a soulmate relationship is that that is the one place where you don't need to do that.
Right. That one person that just loves every flaw and every aspect of,
Yes.
yeah. And that's
And
important to have the same core values then, right?
yeah, core values. I also think there is a certain element about, you know, core values, but also for me it's like it's your sometimes you can't put your finger on it, and sometimes words kind of and logic can't explain. It is that sense of that this person sees into you, and like they say, the word intimacy is like into me see,
Yeah.
and it is whatever elements of the energy between two people that it allows you to be able to really see into the other person and them see into you,
Yeah.
and it I don't know if you've ever had that experience where you're with that person, or you're and it might not last. This is the thing.
Right.
Hopefully it does, but that experience can be so healing for people because
Yeah.
it's the first time in their lives that they've been like, wow, I can't believe I've just bared all this stuff to you and you're not like freaked out or like pushing me away or judging
Yeah.
me in any way, and you actually want to know more. So for me it is really about that thing about intimacy, because a lot of us, it doesn't matter if we've had a good upbringing, if we have close friends, we don't tend to like scratch the surface of ourselves. And the soulmate is the person that allows you to go to those depths.
Beautiful. I love that. And my next question, you kind of touched on it, was can we have more than one soulmate in our lifetime? And do they always last forever?
And that's it. And and that's why, in terms of my marketing, like I help people to attract a soulmate type relationship. And sometimes people are really, really like, they really want to meet their soulmate and that is what they want. And, I don't think there's anyone out there that can um, promise you or sell you a situation where you have ultimate control over a relationship lasting for the rest of your life.
Totally.
Do you think that comes down to a commitment between two people and their willingness to work that out? And I don't think that's something that you can. And a lot of us, this is, again, it's one of like the key things to understand when you awaken spiritually, is one of the things you have to kind of let go of sometimes, is that need to have all of the steps like mapped out and have full control over your future, when that's an illusion that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
We're in the now, we have dominion over the now, and we're experiencing the now. But and that's part of the beauty as well, is a lot of us in relationships, especially as women, we're projecting so much into the future and the fantasy, and is it going to be this, is it going to be that, and is it going to last, and what's he thinking, and there's all of that stuff that takes us out of our experience of the
Takes
connection,
you out of the present moment. But I think
taking you out.
what people are craving as well is certainty. And I don't think it's just a female thing as well. I've definitely, through my experience, have had that with a lot of men. So they like knowing, and it's just, yeah, this feeling of like wanting that certainty and not being
Yes.
comfortable with the uncertainty that you don't know how that relationship's going to form, how it's going to develop. It may end, it may change into something else. You never
There you
know. But
go.
that you just need to learn to be comfortable within that uncertainty. And there'll always be uncertainty in relationships. And it's
Always.
cool that
And
you think you don't.
yeah, and you're right. And I have experienced that with men too, where they say, and I just like, how are you feeling? Do you seeing this being long term? Are you seeing me in this situation with you in a year's time? And I'm like, I could tell you yes if it would make you feel better, but we don't we don't know, you know what I mean? And it's, and that's where we need to be honest with ourselves. But I think this ultimately comes down to, and this is part of the work that I do with my clients, which even allows them to be able to call that in, is like, a lot of this stuff is just unhealed traumas from our childhood experience. Our relationships ultimately, and the people that we attract into our lives, are just a reflection of what we need to heal or address inside us. And many times when people are craving that like certainty, and they're really holding on tightly to this person, it's because they have that fear of like abandonment from their childhood. And that is the thing that we need to work on, that is going to give you the breakthrough in suddenly you're like, wow, there's been a shift in the types of people I'm attracting, and there's been a shift in how I show up. And that's the real breakthrough work, is when you go, oh, maybe what's happening inside me is what is being reflected back to me. Maybe I need to shift my energy in order to become a match to something new.
Yes.
So that's basically the work.
So my next big question for the podcast episode is, how can we begin to call in our soulmate?
Well, I would say, okay, again, like I just touched on in the last question, many of us see this as an external issue. It's like the soulmate is out there, the man is out there, the love is out there. And how do I, just have this magical set of circumstances connect? And it doesn't work that way. What is inside is, the same without. Like what is within is without. And it's a reflection. What we create our reality in terms of what are our unconscious agreements, what are our beliefs, what are our illusions that we create in terms of our mental limitations. What is the, a common one that people have is that, there's no good guys out there. Them have a fear, like we spoke about, a fear of abandonment. They're trying to control the situation. They're trying to control the relationship. A lot of women have not balanced their feminine, masculine energies, and they're very out of whack in that area. And that's one of the big key areas of work that we do, because many women, unbeknownst to themselves, have kind of stepped into the role of pursuer. And that's a specifically masculine type energy. And they have some level of success. Some men will respond to being pursued by a female. The problem becomes that the relationship maybe doesn't, they don't get a sense of a reciprocal energy. So what they're experiencing is that they're always having to put in the work, and they're always having to move closer to him, and he's always like hot and cold and coming closer and moving away and being like behaving quite unavailable. So what that is a sign to me is that woman needs to start to work on balancing her feminine energy again, and start to allow space. And
it can work both ways though as well. So
yeah, you can be two in your feminine. Yeah.
I don't like separating so much like the male and the female, because I believe there's not just like one common condition or whatever that happens with females versus male. I feel like there's way more variety than we're aware of. And it's important not to make too many generalizations like that, because I'm sure a lot of people are listening have it the other way around. So like men might have the same problem where they're pursuing and the woman is very hot and cold, and she's kind of like with him. So yeah, it works.
And that can be the case. Absolutely, it can go both ways, of course. And what I was referring to is not specifically about the feminine and the masculine in terms of gender. I was talking more about these are like energy system that we have. We all actually have masculine and feminine energies in our system. So it's not so much about, it's more about us balancing and settling on our specific frequency of masculine feminine balance. like, just to give an example, for me, I was very, very leadership oriented, very structured, very directional, logical for most of my life. And that works very well in business. I was in business for like the last 10 years. And what that creates more of a masculine essence. It's not about, I didn't look masculine, but it's about how I based my energy system in more of the masculine. And I started to shift more towards my feminine, which is a lot of the stuff that we spoke about, that like the music, the creative, the dance, the movement, and it's not directional, it's not logical, it's more chaotic, and it's everywhere. And that's the energy of the feminine. And what happened was I found myself way too far into my feminine, and it did change the dynamics of the type of men that I attracted. It was more masculine type men who were more pursuing.
Yeah.
We say they were very heavily in their masculine. And what I found was that was not comfortable for me. That was not my unique essence to be very in my feminine. I needed to find my specific place and expression. And that is the same for every single one of my clients. And it's not about your sexuality. It's not about your gender. It really is not. It's about your energy system and just settling into what is your perfect expression and magnetism.
Yeah, I'm just not a huge fan of masculine and feminine. I like to say yin and yang, or without even separating them as left and right. I think what it comes down to as well is authenticity. So rather than
absolutely does.
Yeah. So rather than finding out, are you left, are you right, are you yin, are you yang, are you feminine, masculine, blah, blah, blah.
No.
It's just like, what are you? What is authentically you? And that can change in every given moment. That can change throughout the day. That can change within an hour. So it's not
100%
where I am. It's just like 100% of the time being like, what's authentic to me? And yeah, with the pursue someone or someone pursuing you, I feel like there needs to be a balance with both people anyway. Like, you need to pursue each other. And if you're playing games and going hot and cold, then that person maybe has some personal development to do, because that's not the type of true, raw, unconditional love that we're all striving for. It's not about playing games.
Absolutely. And I agree with you. And, you know, we've done our work, and I agree with you on everything that you've said. I don't, like, that's why I'm saying it's about an energy system. It's not a fixed thing. It's a dynamic needle that moves.
Yeah.
And that is the thing that we're aware of that, but a lot of my clients are not, and they're just stuck in a specific, very rigid expression of themselves. And that's part of the personal development work that we do together.
Yeah.
So, you know, if people came to me and they were fully into all these concepts and everything themselves, I'd imagine they would not have issues in this area. And this is the thing. People come to me because they are having issues, and they are pursuing people and not getting the response. And there's a cycle where they're unfulfilled, you know. So it's about shifting into a new way of experiencing love and relationships.
Interesting. So you're, just for my own curiosity, a lot of your clients are pursuing people and not getting that response of the interest back. Is that what was the common thread in your life before you started doing the coaching?
So no, actually, that was not a major situation in my life. I would say, I mean, I've had different types of experiences. I would say in terms of love and relationships, I've generally been quite happy with how they have gone.
Yeah.
I've generally had what I think is key in this is your self-worth. Okay. When you have, when you're able to satisfy your own needs and your own, like, we all have a void inside us that is like a vessel for love. Okay. And that's what we're seeking to fill. When you find and take responsibility for ways of filling that yourself and feeling like you're worthy of that, you don't tend to spend a lot of time or give a lot of time to people that are not valuing you.
For sure. Yeah. You realize those signs straight away. You're like, okay,
Yeah.
I'll move on.
Absolutely. And you're like, whoa, I mean, this person is playing games with me now, like you say, or, ghosting or avoiding me, or, saying yes and then saying no, and hot and cold or whatever. I have experienced that once, but I definitely didn't, that did not draw me in to want more, as in that was finished.
Yeah. So what was,
and
what was it that made you move into this field of work of wanting to help others find their soulmate?
So what made me move into this field was, again, I experienced, what I experienced was, for me, the hugest transformation for me, I experienced my own, as we'll say, dark night of the soul, where I didn't really understand what was happening, but now looking back on it, I realized that I was completely disconnected from myself, I did not understand the ways in which I was living my life based on other people. Again, speaking about, if you want to call it yin and yang, I was completely out of whack. I did not understand how to balance my system. I didn't understand. I was disconnected from my heart. I did not feel emotions. And that brought me on this journey in terms of actually getting back to the core of my soul and who I was. And what that caused in my life was that my relationship that I was in at the time, which was, we had been together for 7-8 years, it actually created a complete disconnection there. And not that it created it, it exposed it. And I realized that although we loved each other very much, we just, when I shifted and when I awakened, we did not have the same depth of connection that I was looking for. I didn't feel like we could understand each other in the same way. And that led me to move on from that relationship. And again, speaking about authenticity, I was not being authentic for most of my life. And when I did shift into that process, everything shifted in my life. And it was then that I decided that I wanted to experience what a soulmate connection could offer me.
Yeah.
I did experience that. And interestingly enough, just recently that relationship ended on my, because this is where I speak about the soulmate connection is so deep. But I also do believe that, like, this human realm sometimes gets involved and makes it messy, because I have a son, and I wanted to prioritize the needs of my son, and I didn't feel like the relationship or diving into that at this time was right for me. But
was right for you and your child.
Absolutely. And that was just a timing thing, and that can happen. But the bottom line being, when you get your personal transformation, a relationship is awesome. It's amazing. But what you realize is that you're not needy or codependent, or like, you don't need to be in a relationship in the same way anymore, because you've got you, and
you've got the relationship with yourself sorted.
With yourself. You are your own soulmate at the end of the day. And
totally.
When you become your own soulmate, that's when it's really easy to draw in these types of connections. It's not even an issue. And because you realize you have ultimate control over that situation, over the energy you're putting out, and what you're attracting into what you're a match to in your reality. So yeah, that was my personal experience.
Amazing. So the 3 main key points I'm getting here, you started off, you mentioned the masculine and feminine, which I would digest that and reword it as being really authentic and coming from an authentic place. And before we do that, it's important, before we even get in a relationship, is to find out who we actually are and what is true and authentic to ourselves. So that was the first one. And then you said self-worth. So knowing our worth, knowing what we're worthy of, and having our lives and the type of relationship we want, the type of relationship that we dream of, we deserve. And then the last one was self-love. And I guess they all kind of tie into each other. They're all kind of the same thing. When you love
Yes.
yourself, you can't help but be authentic. And when you have self-love, you can't help but have self-worth. So it's a lot of that inner work that we're doing by ourselves before we can call in our soulmate. And that's really when you started realizing those changes in your own life too, is once you did those things.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
how
huge.
in hindsight, how have your relationships changed from before you did the inner work, which takes time? This isn't like a one-month thing, obviously. This is years and years of work. And your relationships now, your most previous relationships, as in general, like how have they changed in hindsight?
So again, like I say, I didn't necessarily have huge relationship struggles before, but
Right.
the way that my lack of inner work manifested in my relationships before was that and we speak about authentic and it sounds really like lovely, but what people don't realize about authenticity is that it does require sometimes for you to show up in a way that maybe doesn't make everybody feel 100% comfortable.
Oh yeah. It's going to make
You
you
know,
have some haters.
yes, so it's a polarizing type of a place, but like a polarizing effect is like a magnet. It actually draws your people to you. So it's an amazing skill to learn. And I do a lot of my work around magnetism as well, and that is very closely linked to authenticity. But the way it manifested for me before in my relationships was that I used to constantly mold myself to the person's needs or situation, and I would be quite what it wasn't a quick noticeable effect, but the effect it had on me as a person was that I lost myself in the relationship. Point where I was like, who am I don't even know who I am. I don't do things that I love anymore. I'm just completely absorbed by the needs of this relationship. And the problem that when people do that, and a lot of us do fall into that trap, is that, you know, we blame the other person, but the other person probably never wanted you to do that. You did that all on your own.
That's so true. I find that,
yeah,
super common, especially for people who are naturally more empathetic as well.
Yes.
We can't help but be like, feel the other person's pain, take on their pain
Yes.
as our own, be like, oh my God, I need to solve their issues. And at the same time, it's a way of us not having to look at our own issues. Because as long as we're focusing on someone else and their issues, we don't have to do our own inner work.
Yes.
So,
and that's like boundaries and all of that, which people, you know, a very strong thing to understand about, like, you know, having the ability to, like, what I call fearless expression. And that's like being able to say, you know what, this was what I would have done in the past. I would have just done whatever you said, but now I'm actually like, I know that I don't want to do that, and I'm not going to. And love, let's respect that I'm not going to do that, and or I'm not going to say that, or I'm not going to go there, or I don't want to spend time with these people, or whatever it is. Just going with the flow and just, you know, being this easily molded person. And what it did cause probably more conflict and a lot of stuff that needed to be worked out in my relationships after since I kind of went through my transformation.
Yeah.
Ultimately, in the long run, you know, if you can have relationships without having to betray yourself, that is ultimately the end goal. And I feel like I'm achieving that, you know, and that's really such huge work for people. It's like, I can have me and I can have you too.
Yeah. Wow, that's very powerful. Yeah, without losing yourself, right? Yeah, so good. Do you find like the same thing would be for people who are wanting more friends and more, like, I guess, like people who are wanting to attract more of a community and a tribe, like-minded people into their lives? I know a lot of people are dealing with this right now because consciousness is raising very fast on the planet. And so people are no longer becoming friends with people they used to be friends with, or the friends from high school are no longer a match to them. So do you find that this theory, this technique is kind of the same when attracting new people, like-minded people, and new friendships in your life as well?
Yes, absolutely. Because like ultimately, like we spoke about, and you, it sounds like you have experience with it too, but you
Yeah.
know, a lot of people that go through any type of awakening or, you know, the raising of their consciousness, you do experience that suddenly you're like, these are my friends. I mean, we don't can't be myself. They don't get me. I'm talking about concepts and they're looking at me like, who is this person? Is she gone psycho? And it that's and sometimes the tendency, and sometimes people experience that as a very painful experience, and they're almost trying to seek the approval, and really you need to try and resist that draw to seek the approval of the old tribe.
Mm,
and and just there will be a period of solitude very commonly, but the more you can express your experience authentically, and the more that you can lean in, and you know what, the journey ultimately is relationship with self. The more
yeah.
you can accept yourself and express yourself to yourself authentically, have your own back emotionally and whatever,
Yeah.
that is when you show up in your most authentic way. You can only be accepted by others on the level that you accept yourself. And
I love that saying.
it absolutely is. And I remember going through this experience myself, and and I found that, you know, we're not alone in this journey. It's huge amounts of people are experiencing this. And, you know, like the hero's journey, Joseph Campbell, this is part of a process. You separate from the tribe, you go and you find new levels of consciousness. You go and discover new knowledge, new wisdom,
Yeah.
and temporary separation. And the ultimate goal is to be able to reconnect with the tribe in some way and bring back everything that you learned. So
Right.
it's an archetypal journey.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Beautiful. All right. Is there anything else that I haven't asked you that you feel called to mention?
So I suppose in terms of people wanting to, if anybody wants to, if anything that has resonated with them and they feel like they would want guidance on the journey,
Yeah.
uh, my website is albabarrett.com. People can jump on and get me there. I'm on Facebook as well. So yeah, I just wanted to say thank you, Arel, for having me. It's been
Yeah.
a great experience.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, it took a while for us to figure out a time too. It's just it is the opposite side of the world, figuring out a time that works.
You're in New Zealand, right?
New Zealand, and you are based
In
in
Ireland.
Ireland. Yeah, we're in Ireland.
So I'm in Dublin, which is the capital city. And what's interesting about New Zealand and Ireland is that we're literally like opposite poles of the planet. Like if we
Yeah.
went straight to the center of the earth, we would literally be at the exact
Dig a
same
hole in the ground and I'll pop out of
drill a
your.
hole in the ground. Yeah, we would be exactly opposite. So we have a lot of similarities in kind of, you know, weather and ecosystem and everything like that is quite similar. So
Yeah, fascinating. Awesome. Well, have a good rest of your day and
thank you, you too.
so much.
Okay, talk soon, Arel.
All right, ciao. If you like this episode and are enjoying the Elevate Your Soul podcast, please help support me by sharing it with somebody you know who could benefit from this episode or from this podcast by copying and pasting the link. I would also love it if you could write me a review on whatever app you're listening to this on. It really helps get this information and content out there. And if you'd like to help out the podcast even more by helping me get the resources I need and keeping it ad-free, please support me through my Patreon website at patreon.com/elevateyoursoul. That's patreon.com/elevateyoursoul. Any support is greatly appreciated.